Hey, welcome back to the Crypto Crossroads. And in today's episode, let's talk about the Redbelly network and why it's probably the most secure network due to its receptor protocol. But before we get started, do me a quick favor and hit the like and subscribe button, and we can get the show started. All right, so you guys know that we've been talking about Redbelly because it is a project that is coming straight from Australia, being co developed by the University of Sydney and the Australian government agency known as CSIRO, right? And just to give you guys a brief introduction to CSIRO, this company is not only developing Redbelly, but it actually created and patented the Wi Fi that we all use for our wireless devices. So we know that CSIRO is no joke. So let's talk about the red belly and how it's going to provide clean liquidity. Now, what does clean liquidity mean? Essentially, it's telling us that the money that's being involved in this project uh, will be clean because everybody on the network must KYC. And this is why I would say that Redbelly is one of those projects that is probably has the most secure networks because everybody on the network has an identity that has been verified through a third party company, right? So you it's really hard to get a bad actor on the network because they will have to pass KYC, and if they were to do something uh, that was against the network or illegal, then the network will be able to tell who exactly did that through their verified credentials, right? So it makes it really hard for any bad actors to come into play, according to the Red Belly Network. Now, I'm going to show you guys a clip from Tim Bass telling you guys how everybody or why everybody's KYC. Let's take a look.
Redbelly network has a level of accountability and verification at the base level of the network. So all of the users and businesses that join the network either do a KYC or a KYB. And so there's a level of comfort there that there are no bad actors or there's no one sitting on an AML list or some sanction list. And so this sort of concept of clean liquidity gives a lot of people confidence that, this is a sort of a very sort of, clean and trusted starting point. And I think that helps from a security standpoint as well. Redbelly network has a
All right, so you heard it from Tim Bates, right? Clean liquidity will be facilitated through a KYC network, right? Now, this is important because many investors and businesses will be tokenizing assets and trading these assets, right? So you want to make sure that everybody is eligible to do so, right? Now, the Red Belly will be providing structured products around real world assets that you will be able to trade. And that is why KYC is needed. Now, a lot of people I have seen on Twitter X that's, they really don't like the idea of KYC, right? That's they view DeFi as a place where you don't need to report to a specific institution, right? But in reality, for institutions to come in, they're going to want some type of regulation and some type of validity regarding the investors and businesses, operating in the space. So, most likely, in my opinion, most businesses will require their users to KYC on the Web3. And to me, that makes sense. Now, I think it's a smart move from the Red Belly team because they're keeping their network clean, right? So let's go back to Tim Base and find out how many people have KYC on the Red Belly network. Let's take a look.
we are very focused on winning the best assets we can and bringing those network effects onto our network. So Redbelly already has 400,000 KYC users. And so these are a combination of wholesale and retail users that generally have higher financial literacy than most of Web3's users. So as an issuer, am I going to issue my assets on a network where everyone's anonymous and I don't know who I'm doing business with? And there aren't sort of the same technology guarantees. And how can I compose my assets with other assets when I don't know who they are either? We are very
Okay, so in other words, the Red Belly network is an accountability layer, right? And I told you guys that it has a protocol called Receptor, which pretty much facilitates identity verification on the network, enabling both users and businesses to prove claims about their identity through verifiable credentials. Now, how exactly does one verify the credentials, right? And it's gonna be done through a third party company or multiple companies, depending on who the issuer is. And it will be pretty much requiring a passport, an ID, a birth certificate that verifies your vital information regarding your name and specifics. So that information will be taken by the issuer, which will create the verifiable credentials, and then it will create it into some type of cryptographic proof that will be issued to the holder, right? And that holder could then present it to the verifier, which would be the business that the holder wants to do a smart contract with. And then it's pretty much kind of like a trust network at this point. Now, of course, when you verify your credentials, it's not free, right? There's probably going to be a small fee, but just imagine this: the Red Belly network will be offering tokenized assets from many various companies. So just imagine how painful it would be to have to KYC with each and every company operating on the Red Belly network just so that you could process transactions. That would really be a pain, and the gas fees will eventually pile up. So Red Belly thought about that and said, hey, through our Trinity of Trust model for the verifiable credentials, we're going to make it so each user of the network only has to verify their credentials once, right? So you only KYC once, and then it's forever on your wallet until you deactivate it. And then every time you try to trade assets from different companies, your cryptographic proof will be right there. So you don't have to KYC more than once. But again, let's go back to Tim Base and see what he has to say about this protocol.
So what we've got is this concept of verifiable credentials, which is a part of this identity stack that I mentioned before. What it is, when someone joins the network and they're over 18 and they're based in Australia and they're a sophisticated investor, we generate a cryptographic proof called a verifiable credential that sits in the user's digital wallet to prove something without having to re-KYC over and over again. So when an issuer deploys their assets on a network and they say, look, it's going to be a wholesale product, can only be offered under these rules, they can, essentially do business far more efficiently with users that meet those standards because they can prove it cryptographically rather than reproducing a PDF and a bank statement and all this sort of stuff. So we're essentially creating a very important moat around the Redbelly network with these verifiable credentials that an issuer can immediately tap into this accountable and verified audience without. So what we've got.
Okay, so through the receptor protocol for the Red Belly network, there's two different types of credentials that you could provide, right? One of them is proof of query, and the second one is selective disclosure. Now, let's go over the proof by query, right? And that is pretty much a zero knowledge proof based verifier smart contract that only gives eligibility criteria and verifies claims made by users based on their verifiable credentials without revealing the information on chain. So essentially, uh, to give an example, if a company requires you to prove that you're over 18, what this method approved by query would do is just provide enough information so that that company knows that you're at least 18 years old or over, right? So it won't really give your exact age nor your date of birth, and that is proved by query. Now, the second type of credential is selective disclosure, and that is a method that actually reveals the exact information that the issuer wants to receive. But let's say when you KYC, you provided a passport or your state ID, and obviously on that ID, your full name is on it, your date of birth, your city, and other pieces of information, right? So if a company requires your birth date, this selective disclosure method will only provide your birth date and not the rest of the information on that document that you use to KYC, right? So there's different types of credentials that could be used depending on the issuer and also the regulations of your region or the regions that you're conducting business in. Now, of course, we talked about KYC, which is know your customer, but there's also KYB, which is know your business. So it's really important to know who is transacting on the Redbelly network as a from the point of an user and also the business, right? So we want to know that the user is the person who he or she is claiming to be, but we also want to know that the businesses that are offering tokenized assets are legit, right? So the best way that Redbelly could prove that is by making these businesses undergo the same process that individuals will go to prove their identity, which is a pretty good thing, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be an industry standard, right? So that's what I think you guys should know about KYC on the Redbelly network, which is probably the most secure network out there, being backed by the University of Sydney and also CSIRO, who created Wi-Fi. So now, the way I see it, Red Belly Network is being a really is taking safety measures through their KYC methods, but also uh, it's going to accelerate the growth of the digital economy for Australia, and it's actually tapping into different countries and is coming to the U.S. Given that it recently had a U.S. patent granted in 2024. Now, if you guys like this video, please do me a quick favor and hit the like and subscribe button. Guys, we're about to hit 500 subscribers, and I'm joyful to be making these videos and being able to connect with you guys in the comment section and even Twitter X. So as always, thank you for tuning in. Remember that God is good, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.